10. Robot Wonder Woman. Yep, there is a robot Wonder Woman. It was during issue 137, Diana and Steve end up traveling to an alternate Earth, and that Earth is full of robot versions of all the main DC heroes. The robot Wonder Woman sees Steve, and who just so happens not to have a robot double and wants him all to herself. They then start to compete in a series of trials, and whoever wins gets to be with Steve. Of course, in the end, the regular Wonder Woman wins. But there is a point where robot Wonder Woman looked like she was about to have Steve all to herself, even though it kind of turns out she was cheating in most of the challenges. Number 9. Red Sun Wonder Woman. This version of Wonder Woman comes from the Elseworld story Superman Red Sun, which is considered to be one of Superman's best Elseworlds tales. The story revolves around, what if Superman didn't land in Kansas when he came to Earth, but instead Soviet Russia. During this story, we also get to see alternate versions of some of our other favorite DC heroes, including Wonder Woman. This version of her is in love with Superman, but he doesn't always show the same amount of affection towards her. And eventually, she starts to hate him. Later on, she ends up going up against him while starting her own, more kind of crazy, bloody versions of the Amazons. It's kind of scary. Number 8. Frank Miller's Wonder Woman. Frank Miller is responsible for a whole bunch of amazing DC stories. Although, sometimes his take on the characters, they're really different than what fans are used to. And sometimes they are not even the biggest fans of them, and that seems to be the case with his take on Wonder Woman, at least during The Dark Knight Returns. During that story, Wonder Woman is basically just a killer, and she kills a lot of people without mercy. She's not the hero that fans are used to. This version of Diana works for Lex Luthor and basically implies that she wants to see all men die. The Wonder Woman we know doesn't kill unless she absolutely needs to and stands up for everyone. So you can see why this version kinda got a mixed response. Number 7. Final Crisis Wonder Woman. During the DC event, Final Crisis, Darkseid infects multiple DC heroes with a virus called, and please forgive me if I am pronouncing this wrong, Mortococcus. The virus takes them over and turns them into animal-like creatures. Of course, one of the heroes affected by this virus is Wonder Woman. Basically, after that, she now works for Darkseid and fights against the other DC heroes. Some of the other characters infected with the virus were Catwoman, Batwoman, and Giganta. Number 6. Bizarro Wonder Woman. We all know of the original Bizarro, and by original I mean Superman's Bizarro. But not a lot of people know there's actually a Bizarro Wonder Woman. Bizarro Wonder Woman first showed up in DC Comics Presents issue 71. Now, since then, there have actually been multiple versions of Bizarro Wonder Woman. There's even one called Bizarra. I mean, what can I say? DC loves its Bizarro versions of their own characters. And for the most part, fans do as well. I just think, it depends on how good the story is around them. That definitely affects it.
Number 5. Weapon of Mass Destruction. During the events of Red Sun, the DC Universe explored what it would be like if Superman fell into Soviet Russia instead of Kansas. He becomes slowly corrupted by the Soviet propaganda machine, and as a result, nothing noble remains. An alternate version of Wonder Woman is also introduced into this universe, but she becomes treated as just a weapon. After this happens to her repeatedly, she's left with very little of her morality. When she sacrifices some of her powers for Soviet Superman, her affection towards him turns quickly into hatred. As a result, she becomes filled with vengeance, and after taking control of the Amazons, teams up with the President of the United States and Lex Luthor. And at number 4, Heart of Darkness. As you can tell by now, Wonder Woman has been mind controlled a fair amount of times, causing her to perhaps do things against her will. In the Justice League cartoon, the team comes across a purple gemstone. They soon discover that it's an ancient artifact known as the Heart of Darkness. It's controlled by a race of snake-like creatures that possess anyone that comes into contact with it. Wonder Woman unfortunately falls under its control and becomes a terrifying version of herself. Number 3. Nazi Justice League. Many superheroes got their start during the World War II era, and as a result, a lot of comic book writers began creating Nazi versions of famous superheroes. You had Captain America working with Hydra, the Arrowverse with their Earth X, and even Wonder Woman wasn't able to escape this. Being rebranded as the JL Axis in the 52 event, these Nazi Justice League heroes were created by Adolf Hitler after he won World War II and became his agents of destruction. Wonder Woman's character was named Brunhilde and was a product of Norse gods instead of her original Greek mythology roots. Eventually, she joined the Monarch army and became a giant threat to the entire DC multiverse. In at number 2, Dead Lantern Party. The comic book of Blackest Night saw the introduction of the Black Lanterns. They are by far the darkest of the Rainbow Corps and are essentially DC's versions of creating zombies. In the comic book run, we saw nearly every hero that had died come back to life and transform into a Black Lantern as a result. When Black Lantern Wonder Woman came back, Diana causes a ton of destruction. Her terrorizing was mostly contained by the undead heroes unaffected by the Black Lantern's powers, and Aquaman's wife Mara was at the forefront of this. She even resorted to stabbing Wonder Woman in the chest with Aquaman's trident. Kinda hurts me even just saying that. Although she put up a decent fight, Mara was no match for Black Lantern Wonder Woman. The only thing that could stop this dark Wonder Woman was the intervention from the rest of the Rainbow Corps. Lastly, on our number 1 spot, oh snap. The most egregious act committed by Wonder Woman occurred in the build-up to the event in Infinite Crisis that subsequently destroyed her relationship with both Superman and Batman. For years, Maxwell Lord was the main opponent for the Justice League as he tried to make himself the ultimate authority on Earth. Lord even discovered a way to control the mind of Superman, making him his own personal bodyguard, and well, with the powers of Superman, he was basically a one-man army. In the mind of Wonder Woman, she firmly believed that the only way to stop this mind control was to stop the problem at its source. So, on national television, she snapped Maxwell Lord's neck. This absolutely horrified the nation, Superman, and Batman.
Number 10. Rejected. Kind of. This one comes from JLA issue number 90 from the 1997 series. Here, Wonder Woman and Batman eventually share a kiss, which prompts Diana to look inside herself and see how she really feels about Bruce and the potential for a relationship with him. After looking deep within her subconscious by using the trans-consciousness articulator, try saying that 5 times fast, Diana decides it would be best if she and Bruce didn't actually end up together. She tells him as much, just as he seems to be ready to say the same. Although he also makes quite the face when she asks him if he felt being with her was worth risking all they already had as friends. And while Bruce seems to say that he agrees with Diana wholeheartedly, his face and the parentheses in his speech bubble seem to imply otherwise to me. All in all, I think both of these two ended up a little bit embarrassed by the whole ordeal, so it's a bit of a two-way street with this one. Batman's embarrassed, Diana's a little embarrassed. Number 9. Exposed to critical weakness. This one comes to us from one of the short stories included in the Wonder Woman 80th Anniversary 100-page Super Spectacular. The story is titled Dreamers, and it features a younger Diana who ends up, even as a kid, exposing a critical weakness in the Amazon's defenses for Doom's doorway. She ends up sneaking into the area with the help of Theo the shark, so great, hoping to get a better understanding of secrets and responsibilities she'll inherit when she becomes queen. By the way, in case you forgot, Diana can communicate with animals in marine life. She can talk to Theo. She's basically like a more bad Disney princess. Successfully sneaking into the area, Diana comes across Nubia, who is tasked with guarding the doorway, and reprimands Diana for sneaking in. Though she also seems a little bit impressed that Diana, being so young, was able to poke holes in the defenses of her much older and experienced sisters. Fortunately, Nubia's don't worry, I won't tell your mom, but I will have to tell her that hey, there's a hole here. We need to fix that. We need to tell these sharks to keep their mouths shut. Number 8. Defeat 'em to beat 'em. You know how we've mentioned the time that Batman incapacitated inadvertently the whole Justice League thanks to his contingency plans being stolen and then used by Ra's al Ghul? Well, he isn't the only one to defeat the Justice League. In fact, Wonder Woman defeated the Justice League without the interference or influence of anyone else. She did it single-handedly, and instead of it being a betrayal, it was actually to try and protect the League. However, the realization that Wonder Woman could take them all out so easily was likely pretty embarrassing when they came to afterwards. This all happened in League of One, where Diana defeated the League in order to protect them against a prophecy. You see, they had to go up against a dragon, but it was supposed to be the League's fate to both succeed in defeating the dragon, but also die in the process of winning that battle. To spare the rest of her friends and teammates, Diana beat them so that she could face the dragon alone and hopefully be the only one to both defeat it and possibly die in the process. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want to show us some love in some other places here on the internet, head on over to our Facebook page, click that like, click that follow, and it really does help us out here at the channel, so thanks for doing that.
Number 7. Superwoman from Earth 3. While Superwoman is an alternate version of Wonder Woman, originally she was actually the Lois Lane from Earth 3, who on this world seems to have similar powers to a Kryptonian, but she was indeed an Amazon, wielding the lasso of submission instead of truth, which was capable of forcing others to do her bidding and forcing them to love her. She was capable of not only everything Wonder Woman could do, but she could fire beams of red-hot energy from her eyes, and she could fly, which I'm pretty sure Wonder Woman can do most of the time. She created an incredibly toxic love triangle between Ultraman, which is Superman in this world, and Owlman, which is Batman in this world, of the Crime Syndicate of America, even having a child with Owlman, but promising to Ultraman that it was his, but it was actually some other guy's baby, and it's just this big whole thing, and woo! don't want to talk about it anymore.
Number 6. Beats down a god with his own weapon. This one comes from Wonder Woman issue 773. Legacy numbering, where Wonder Woman takes on the god Thor. Not Marvel's Thor, who is very much a hero, but DC's Thor, who is still technically a hero, but also is kind of more of a brute than the Thor Odinson of Marvel's Earth 616. Wonder Woman ends up in DC's version of Asgard after the events of Dark Knight Death Metal. Here she learns that there seems to be a problem with souls going missing. She attempts to solve it, but ends up bonking heads with Thor, who isn't much for diplomacy. At least, not initially. Don't worry though, Diana puts him in his place, besting him in combat, taking Mjolnir, smashing him in the face with it before crushing it between her 2 hands. She's like, hammers, not really my thing. And of course, only then is Thor willing to listen to what she has to say. But don't worry, it all works out in the end. Everyone's able to sit at a table and have a discussion and a beer afterwards, so yay.
Number 5. Mera. Returning to the Flashpoint universe for a hot minute, where Wonder Woman is now an oppressive queen of the Amazons, the way she rules over them is dark. It's cruel. It's nothing like how we know and love Diana now. So naturally, her combat skills share a hint of evil as well. She's one of the 2 main villains in the 2013 animated film Justice League: The Flashpoint Paradox, and it's here where we see Diana and Aquaman fall for each other out of nowhere. Aquaman's wife, Mera, is of course hurt during this, as she witnessed this affair go down, so she approached Wonder Woman and was like, hey man, not so cool what happened there with you and my husband, I don't know, let's talk about it. Wonder Woman responds by taking her head clean off. Her body was then later sent to Aquaman as a gift, and then of course a massive war began. This is incredibly dark, but most things in the Flashpoint universe are. I mean, she kept and wore Mera's crown too, like, come on, really dude?
Number 4. Rejected. But for real this time. Real rejection. So this isn't rejection of the romantic sort, but it is the rejection of a kind of, like a team-up sort, I guess you could say. In Wonder Woman the Hecate, Bruce and Diana end up at odds with one another. As such, the two end up in a fight with one another. Wonder Woman handily ends up defeating Batman in that fight, placing her boot on his head as he lays in a puddle, and urges him to not get back up. Batman decides to surrender, which I think is a good choice. Instead of fighting back, Batman tries a new tactic and begs for Diana's mercy and protection. This shocks Wonder Woman as Batman clings to her boots. He calls on the age-old ritual and rites to seek her power and her aid. Wonder Woman, however, reminds Bruce of his history, saying that in times previous, heroic men have been denied, as she chooses to deny him now. Ouch. Looks like Batman needs to brush up on his reading of the Iliad, apparently.
Number 3. Dead Earth. Now, I'm not sure what the general consensus on this comic book is, and quite frankly, I don't care because I think this version of Diana of Themyscira is just absolutely insanely dope. The comic picks up in an apocalyptic wasteland in what used to be Gotham. Deep down in the remnants of the Batcave, Wonder Woman had been kept alive in a containment unit and was awoken by a group of humans who were running from a mutated monster known as a Hydra. After saving the Humies and liberating their city, she journeys to Themyscira only to find out that the Hydra are actually her fellow Amazons mutated by atomic radiation after the Amazons had decided to go to war with the rest of humanity, who had driven the Earth to its breaking point. The human world had bombarded Themyscira with nuclear fire, even though Diana used the absolute limits of her abilities to stop it. When Superman, who fought for humanity, turned up to try and explain why he couldn't have helped her, we just see how powerful this Wonder Woman is. Losing complete control of herself, Wonder Woman and Superman fought each other to the point of causing a great fire that plunged the world into the apocalypse, and at the end of that fight, Wonder Woman, who was double fisting some kryptonite, brought Superman to his final rest with a hole straight through his chest. She collapsed from the exhaustion, and when she learned of this past, Wonder Woman decided to set things right and protected what was left of humanity from what she once called her sisters.
Number 2. Defeated by love? That's right, Wonder Woman actually defeated someone with basically just the power of love. Although I suppose I shouldn't say like just the power of love. After all, love is kinda Wonder Woman's biggest ideal, I'd say, and it also is extremely powerful if you know how to use it. Case in point, when Diana went up against a villainous Donna Troy. Donna seemingly had the upper hand in the fight, claiming to be the more powerful of the two, designed to be a more perfect version of Diana when Wonder Woman decided to bust out one of her most effective weapons, the lasso of truth, which unlike Ghost Rider's pen and stare, almost always actually works on the folks that she targets it with. I know there's gonna be Ghost Rider fans coming for me in the comments. They're gonna be like, look, the pen and stare is great, but I'm just saying, I can give you so many examples of times it didn't work. I think it's almost equal, it's like a 1-for-1. Compelled to see and realize the truth, Diana reminded Donna of what it really meant to be an Amazon. It's not about power, you see, or strength, it's about being part of a culture, being part of a family, being a sister. That is the most important defining word of Amazonian culture. Sister. And with that one word and realization, Diana handily defeats her sister Donna using nothing but truth and love. Number 1. The truth comes out. One of the most memed Power Girl and Wonder Woman moments comes from the 2007 The Brave and the Bold series in issue number 7. While many people have spun this series of panels with their own reason for why Kara is so shocked at her answer to Wonder Woman's question, changing up just what that answer is, the real dialogue sees Kara handing back Wonder Woman's lasso of truth and while passing it over to her, answering Diana's question of, where she's off to next. Power Girl responds in the comic that she's off to go kill Superman, shocking both herself and Diana, and leaving her super embarrassed while Diana is convinced that something must be wrong with Power Girl. Perhaps she's brainwashed or she's possessed, as the lasso obviously compels those it touches to only tell the truth. So, she's gotta be telling the truth. Wow, what an embarrassing way to realize that that's going on.
Now, coming in at number 10 is Wondrous Man from Earth 11. Talking about unstoppable alternate Wonder Woman, and of course, a man makes the list. Yikes! Dane of Elysium is from the alternate Earth of Earth 11, and he isn't the only gender-swapped hero. In fact, all the heroes you may be used to are swapped. Here, the Amazons are an all-male race of warriors. The Themyscirians had actually joined with the world, creating a matriarchal society, and this group of male warriors made their way to the Isle of Elysium, where they would remain segregated from the women's world. Dane was their prince, and a hero to the world, until he wasn't. Dane found himself expelled from the Justice Guild, this world's Justice League of America, and banished from Women's World when he took the life of Maxine Lord for controlling Superwoman. Dane didn't take too kindly to this banishment, and so he decided to fight for his honor and the honor of the Amazons of Elysium by invading the United States and battling the Justice Guild, the Freedom Fighters, and the Army of Atlantis. In at number 9 is Flashpoint Wonder Woman. Flashpoint is one of the groundbreaking stories to come out of DC, presenting us with an alternate timeline caused by the Flash. It's also going to be the basis for the DCEU's Flash movie. What I have not heard word on just yet is if the Warlord version of Wonder Woman from Flashpoint will show up in that movie. By all that is holy, I hope she does. This version of Wonder Woman is already Queen of the Amazons when we are introduced to her character, and she's in a bitter rivalry and war with Atlantis and its ruler, Emperor Aquaman, which is a stupid name. That whole conflict started when her mother, Queen Hippolyta, was removed from the living at Wonder Woman and Aquaman's wedding. Diana then took the life of Mira as retribution, and the conflict snowballed until Diana had taken complete control of the UK as the new Themyscira. This version of Wonder Woman is basically the same as the standard Wonder Woman, but it's her feats and her title as Queen of the Amazons that makes her pretty much unstoppable. Number 8. Becca from Gods and Monsters. Becca may just be the strongest of the Wonder Women who have shown up today, and that's because she's different from them all. She isn't even an Amazon. Becca, who was Wonder Woman in the animated Gods and Monsters, is actually a new god. She was exiled from New Genesis following her marriage to Darkseid's son, Orion, a wedding that was interrupted by her family, who used the momentary peace between New Genesis and Apocalypse to launch a sneak attack. When she came to Earth, she became Wonder Woman alongside a vampire Batman and a Superman who was actually the son of General Zod. As a new god, she does have similar abilities to Wonder Woman, only they should be far superior. She wields immortality, super strength and durability, flight, super healing, and self-sustenance, but more literally, she also wields a golden lasso, New Genesis armor, and a sword given to her by Orion that was crafted by the greatest smiths on Apocalypse and is basically indestructible. Certainly a powerful version of Wonder Woman.
Number 7. Supergirl. Hell on Earth is a Superman storyline beginning with Superman Volume 3, Issue 13, and as the title suggests, Hellspawn arrives to Earth and kicks Superboy and Superman out of the Fortress of Solitude, so now they need help from the Justice League in stopping him. Hell's idea here is to go back in time and prevent the destruction of Krypton, but in order to do so, our solar system will be blown to smithereens. Nice. Hashtag not so great. Supergirl is on board with Hell's plan to, bring back Krypton, so Wonder Woman knows that she must stop her. Diana reminds her that strength is not simply about force, but rather from studying your opponent and how they fight. She continues to tell Kara that she fights like a child, wasting energy and lashing out. That's a pretty harsh burn. So Diana ties her up then with a lasso and hopes that Supergirl can learn from this. closely matched in strength and speed, but not experience.
Number 6, Donna Troy of Earth 3. Just as Donna Troy became the new Wonder Woman in the legit continuity, on Earth 3 she would also become the new Superwoman. But unlike the previous Superwoman, who seemed to have the same abilities as a Kryptonian, Donna Troy was a bona fide Amazon from Demon Island. As the Queen's daughter, Donna was trained harder and pushed farther than any other person on the island. She was expected to become stronger than any other, and when she met Steve Trevor and fell in love, it was her test of strength to go against that love and snap him like a dry twig. Now, having proven herself worthy in her mother's eyes, she set off into the world and forced her way into the crime syndicate of America as the new Superwoman, wielding the lasso of submission. Now, Donna's whole life goal is to truly make her mother proud by eventually returning to Demon Island, slaying her, and taking the throne for herself. Goals?
Number 5, can't stop killing. It's hard to tell who would be more embarrassed in this scenario, Wonder Woman or all of her friends who try to reach out to her and really epically fail. This all goes down in a dark multiverse tale, a darker version of War of the Gods. Here, Wonder Woman ends up losing her mother and in her darkness finds herself possessed and overtaken by Hecate, who uses Wonder Woman as her host to reach out and conquer Earth. Wonder Woman's friends try to stop Diana and reach her, but she's trapped deep within a pit of despair after having not properly dealt with her emotions, basically. Struggling to find her way back to love and hope, the only solution is for many magic users of DC to band together, sacrificing themselves in order to defeat Hecate, but still unable to bring back Diana. Whew. Zatanna, as a result, keeps Hecate in Diana's body locked away, hoping to one day find a cure for the possession so she can bring back her friend once more.
Number 4, Injustice Wonder Woman. When you've got to sell a video game, you make your characters badass. And when that game is taking the heroes and villains of the DC Comics universe and mixing it with Mortal Kombat, that's just a recipe for some unstoppable forces. The Wonder Woman from the Injustice series is that unstoppable force. Injustice is essentially Superman losing his family and then deciding that he and other super beings should rule the Earth. His number one go-to person is Diana, and she's basically even worse than he is. Many people have argued that Wonder Woman was the real antagonist of the story. She caused the passing of Captain Atom, one of the best hopes against Superman. She takes the life of Huntress for insulting Superman, is the accomplice in the passing of Martian Manhunter and this low-level guy called Galaxor. She turns Harley Quinn into a shish kebab. She had taken the place of Lois Lane as Superman's lover, turned the other Amazons to Superman's cause, and the whole time she was doing that, she was whispering in Superman's ear, pushing him to go even farther and farther down the path of villainy.
Number 3, Huntress. Back to the Injustice timeline yet again. Looking into year 3, issue 21. The world is far from bright. Superman is hurt, so Huntress believes that this is the perfect time to take a crack at the son of Krypton. Batwoman is also there, so the two of them perform a well choreographed cranial kick, and down he goes. They genuinely have him on their ropes here. It's looking good, but then in comes the bestie Wonder Woman. Not on her watch, oh god. Diana explains how fighting for a lost cause doesn't make you a hero, it just makes you foolish. Huntress responds with, well, we'd rather die fools than belong to a tyrant, and then Diana makes that a reality by cracking her whip around Huntress's neck and giving a mighty tug. She got Gwen Stacy'd by Wonder Woman, guys, that's brutal. She says she didn't mean to, but at that point it's far too late, doesn't matter.
And in at number 2 is Brunhild. Earth 10 is a universe where things happen just a little differently in terms of our world history. Mainly, I'm talking about who came out on top at the end of World War II. Instead of what really happened, the Axis powers came out on top here, turning Germany and their symbol-wielding fascist party into the world's next superpower. But the only reason they achieved this was because they had actual superpowers on their side. The Justice League Axis, which eventually became the new Reichman. For this alternate Wonder Woman, we actually have 2 different women, both going by the name Brunhild. The first being red-headed and the second being blonde-haired and blue-eyed. No surprise there, but both being extremely capable female warriors with seemingly no weaknesses. She seems to take inspiration from Norse mythology, and for me to back that up, there is indeed a Prime Earth Brunhild who is the leader of the Valkyries. What's interesting is that in the Golden Age, the Valkyries were enemies to Wonder Woman, but on the Prime Earth, it's actually become canon that Valkyries and Amazons are part of the same race. As such, Brunhilde does have all the same attributes as Wonder Woman, which was probably a big help in taking over the world. And finally, in at number 1 is Nubia. Nubia isn't really an alternate version of Wonder Woman. She's pretty much her own character, and she is in fact the sister of Diana. Nubia came to be in the exact same way as Diana, but where Diana was molded from white clay, Nubia was molded from black clay, and stolen away by the god of war, Ares, or if you prefer, Mars. Nubia was charged by the Greek gods with defending the entrance to the river Styx and the gates of Tartarus, and that on its own should tell you how capable this Amazon really is. Her powers appear to be exactly the same as Diana, and on Earth 23, Nubia actually is Wonder Woman, but seems to be even more powerful with complete access to her world's technology and mystical devices, suggesting her position may be more like Queen Hippolyta rather than Diana. And that's probably the case, because on Prime Earth, Nubia became the new and current Queen of Themyscira, and eventually the Queen of all Amazons. She's so cool and definitely my favorite of all those to have been Wonder Woman.
Number 10. Deceased Wonder Woman. Taking place in the Deceased DC universe, Deceased is a miniseries that follows the aftermath of Cyborg's body being used to carry a version of the anti-life equation that ended up turning the general population into zombies. In this miniseries, we see Wonder Woman become a member of the Unliving, which is basically DC's equivalent of zombies, whose whole purpose is to spread anti-life by either infecting or killing living things. They show very little signs of intelligence, and they still retain the ability to utilize their skill sets, powers, and technologies respectively to a surprisingly effective manner. The effective have also shown numerous times of coming up with very elaborate strategies and tactical decisions to bypass pockets of resistance and cause as much death and destruction as possible. Our infected Wonder Woman actually showed that she was able to form coherent and full sentences when she was interrogated by Cyborg, implying that she still has some humanity left in her. However, after being set free, she immediately decapitated Cyborg to preserve any secrets she told him. Honestly, all I have to say is Wonder Woman's strength and skills combined with the mind and body of a zombie makes for a scary hero. So check her out for yourself, starting with 2019's Deceased, number 1. Number 9. Brunhilde. Hailing from Earth 10, a universe where many of our favorite heroes have been turned into villainous versions of themselves, comes Valkyrie Brunhilde, the Wonder Woman of this Earth that is based on Norse mythology, as opposed to, the original Greek. On Earth 10, all these superheroes we're familiar with are part of the German army and are believers of fascism, so from that you can probably assume that most of them are pure evil. Brunhilde is a member of the New Reichman alongside other dark iterations of the Justice League members, whose only real goal is to rid the world of the freedom fighters and spread their ideals across the land. The New Reichman are, however, taken down pretty much from the inside after Overman began to feel guilty about his past deeds. Honestly put simply, Brunhilde is an evil version of Wonder Woman that can and will go to any lengths necessary to get the job done. Give her story a read for yourself, starting with her first appearance in 2015's The Multiversity Guidebook, number 1. Number 8. Bizarra. You can probably guess it from the name, but Bizarra is the Bizarro version of Wonder Woman. Now, if you're not familiar with Bizarro, he is basically an incomplete clone of Superman, which means that Bizarra is an incomplete clone of Wonder Woman. She was created using the powers of the 5th dimension and is meant to be the evil counterpart to our Wonder Woman, but I think we all know that Bizarro versions of any hero never really get the job done. Even though Bizarra possesses both the bracelets of submission and the lasso of truth like her counterpart, she's only strong enough to challenge Wonder Woman in a one-on-one duel, and when it comes to brains, oh man, trust me, she does not even come close to Wonder Woman. As a member of the Injustice League of Un-America, Bizarro was one of the many that was captured by Metallo in his attempt to rule over Bizarro World, but was thankfully freed by Bizarro himself. Now, I think my favorite thing about Bizarra and the other Bizarro copies is their way of speaking. She spoke in a very twisted tongue and always meant the opposite of what she said. For example, when she says, "I love you," she actually means, "I hate you." Check her out for yourself in 2015's The Multiversity Guidebook, number 1. Number 7. Wonder Woman Dark Knight's Death Metal. Now, although this is technically in the main continuity, the Wonder Woman that appears in Dark Knight's Death Metal absolutely deserves a spot on this list today because she is one serious badass. Introduced to us in the first issue of Dark Knight's Death Metal, Wonder Woman alongside Swamp Thing is a guard of the demonic-looking prison that holds any villain that does not want to team up with the Batman Who Laughs. So it would kinda seem like she's working for him, but it's revealed later that is not the case when she just impales and rips the Batman Who Laughs in two with her new awesome-looking weapon, the Chainsaw of Truth. Wonder Woman's whole goal in the storyline is to correct the mistakes that have been made and to set everything back on track by somehow resetting the timeline. Basically, she's the Wonder Woman we all know and love, stuck in one of the darkest and scariest DC storylines to date, and that is why she is starting off our list today. Check her out for yourself, starting with 2020's Dark Knight's Death Metal, Volume 1, Number 1. Number 6, Whom God Destroys Wonder Woman. This version of Wonder Woman only showed up in a 4-issue series called Superman and Wonder Woman Who Gods Destroy. This storyline takes place in an alternate world where Europe is still under the control of the Germans, and Lois Lane actually steps up to the plate as the new Wonder Woman in order to protect those around her from the tyrannical ruling of the original Wonder Woman and Superman. Not a whole lot is known about this evil Wonder Woman other than the fact that she betrayed her home in order to obtain more power. And just like the other evil versions of her, her lack of humanity is incredibly evident as she looks down on Lois Lane's Wonder Woman for just being immortal. The story ends with Lois defeating the evil Wonder Woman, and it is revealed that the gods Zeus and Hera were actually playing a game of chess using the world as their chess pieces. And that's why everything is so messed up. Oddly enough though, the story doesn't quite end there, because once everyone is defeated, everything seems to be pretty much back to normal. Superman, Lois, and Wonder Woman all decide to live together on Superman's fortress on the moon. Check out this miniseries for yourself, starting with 1997's Superman and Wonder Woman Whom Gods Destroy, Number 1.
Number 5, Hung Up on Trevor. Okay, so the Flashpoint Paradox has a good chunk of not so pleasant moments. I mean, that's the whole point. Some things aren't meant to be changed, or else you risk opening the door to these nasty other realities. Like the one where Wonder Woman kills. A lot. So in the comics we see Wonder Woman, rather Queen Diana at this point, send some Amazons to kill Steve Trevor, which alone, as I say that, just sounds terrible. But to make it even more list-worthy, the animated version is so much darker. Yikes. Okay, if we see this scene in the Flashpoint movie, I'll stand up and clap. I'll do it. I'll be like, yes, you guys, someone did it. Number 4, bat for a bat. Jealousy can turn people, sometimes for the best. Like if your ex starts dating somebody new and you're like, I'll show you by bettering myself physically and mentally. Haha, I showed you. Or sometimes jealousy can make you fight another superhero because you're too in love with Batman. Either one. In Batman Brave and the Bold, issue 78, we find Batgirl and Wonder Woman going at it, all for the love of Batman. I mean, it starts off kind of cute. Wonder Woman writes, I love Batman in the sky, hell yeah. And then this plane comes in and who could it be? Is that Batgirl? What is she? Oh, she's wiping with a lovely message, awesome. Oh, she's writing something of her own, what does it say? Only I love Batman, Batgirl, nice. So Wonder Woman's like, haha, okay, hold on a sec. Lasso's Batgirl, she's upset, I mean, fair. She just wiped away her message and she's like, no, I love him more. Impossible, she says, and then this is where Batgirl goes too far. She says back, nothing's impossible for you, you unhip chick. Wonder Woman ended up winning, but at what cost? Number 3, Hunted the Huntress. Now, when it comes to non-canon stories or alternate dark realities, sure, it doesn't really count as much. You can kind of put those away in your head and pretend like they don't exist. But these horrible actions are still done by our beloved heroes. It's hard to get over some of these happenings. It's kind of like when you have a dream your sibling is being mean to you, and then you wake up the next morning just angry at them for no reason. Like before school, they're like, good morning, and you're like, morning, whatever. Shut up. So on the topic of injustice, we find our main supers in a world that's not so bright. Issue 21 of Injustice Year 3 shows us just how great Wonder Woman is at cracking the whip, when she wraps the lasso of pain around the neck of Huntress. And then the crack we hear is, well, it's exactly what you think. Now, she didn't mean to kill her, but I also didn't mean to wrist shot an orange hockey ball at my neighbor's parked car when I was 13. Accident or not, you're still paying the price, Buster. Number 2, cut to the chase. With Wonder Woman 1984 getting the official go-ahead to release on HBO Max this holiday season, it's fair to look into some other run-ins with the two. One that's particularly notable, starting in Wonder Woman Volume 3, Issue 26, titled Rise of the Olympian. So we see her interrogation skills bump up a notch when she crossed paths with Cheetah. So she decides to threaten her, of course by demanding Cheetah to tell her the location of Etta Candy. Or else she'll cut her tail off. That's crazy. That's like the superhero version of a mob boss taking a finger. That's so thug. And number 1, she left humanity behind. With time jumps and time heists, superhero flicks can bring up a lot of questions during the downtime in between these films. Like for example, Cap going back in time to be with Peggy. Wonderful, so sweet, may have even brought a tear out of my eye, maybe 2 tears, or 70 tears. But then you think of all the things that still happened in real life and you're like, really? Like he was there the whole time? I feel like he could have done something for like, I don't know, one of those horrible events. Now of course, in doing so may just cause even worse things to happen, like we see with Barry Allen saving his mother, but then Wonder Woman hangs Steve Trevor, so it's like, This idea comes crawling back in now that we see Wonder Woman in modern day Justice League movies. She tells Bruce at the end of Dawn of Justice that men made a world where standing together is impossible, and left humanity for a century. I mean, again, I feel like you could have just stepped in, helped out with maybe, I don't know, World War II?
Number 10, Flashpoint. Known now as one of the more famous additions to the DC universe, the Flashpoint canon happened when Barry Allen decided to go back in time to save his mother. This created a ripple in time that gave way to one of the scariest versions of Wonder Woman ever. Her origin in the Flashpoint universe isn't that different from the main universe, although we see a difference when Wonder Woman meets Aquaman for the first time. When the two join forces, they engage in a forbidden romance that ultimately leads to Wonder Woman killing Aquaman's wife. This marks her first major kill of an innocent character. Number 9, Darkseid's Servant. During the events of Final Crisis, Wonder Woman becomes controlled by a virus called Mordecacus. Darkseid uses this virus to build a new army of DC heroes and promoted Wonder Woman as the leader of said army. Flanked by Giganta, Catwoman, and Batwoman, they become loyal servants of Darkseid and began infecting others with the virus, and stripping them of their powers in the process. Number 8, a Lex Luthor agent. Written by Frank Miller, you can tell that he had a very specific view of Wonder Woman, and it's not a likable one at that. This version of Wonder Woman was very violent and hated all men, and even implies that she'd like to see all men in chains. Miller's Wonder Woman exists on Earth 31, also known as the Dark Knight Returns universe. In the event of the Dark Knight Strikes Again, she was drafted by none other than Lex Luthor. She joined his team as an agent very reluctantly because of the whole hating all men thing I mentioned before. She loves violence though, so agrees to help him put together a regime that Lex creates on Earth. Miller's Wonder Woman is a bit of a loose cannon. She's killed without remorse and regularly flies off the handle from the slightest provoking. In at number 7, Abandonment. It's a known fact that Wonder Woman 2 will be set in the 1980s, which will hopefully clear up as to why she abandoned the DCEU in Batman vs Superman. According to Batman and Justice League, Wonder Woman had stepped away from humanity for close to a century and sat back while people like Lex Luthor caused global problems. Now, one could argue that her doing nothing doesn't mean that she's a villain, but if you consider the timeline of events, Wonder Woman sat on the sidelines from World War I to 2013. That means she did nothing as things like the Holocaust went on. Either way, in all of the terrible events that happened during her sabbatical, having a demigod protecting the Earth would have really come in handy. Number 6, Dark Knights. The story of Dark Knight's Metal is perhaps one of the weirdest DC stories out there. It features alternate versions of the Justice League from the Dark Universe, and as you would expect, they're not the kindest nor most reasonable characters to deal with. It takes a while for the Dark Wonder Woman to appear, but man, when she does, it's a terrifying sight to behold. Two versions specifically are heavily featured, one of which looks a lot like Diana with some inspiration from Star Sapphire, and the other appears to be a mix of Wonder Woman and Cheetah. That version is equally vicious and violent as both of those characters can be.
Number 5, Superwoman. So, Superwoman is an evil alternate version of Wonder Woman. She is from Earth 3 and is part of a group known as the Crime Syndicate, which is an evil version of the Justice League. This version of Wonder Woman fled Themyscira, or known on that Earth as Damnation Island. But she didn't just leave there all happy and, whatever. No, she left there, but not before murdering all of her fellow Amazonian warriors. Like, this version of Wonder Woman was really hardcore. She's scary, she's manipulative, and does whatever it takes to get what she wants. I mean, even turning her fellow allies against one another, two of which she was actually dating secretly. Number 4, Nazi Wonder Woman. I feel like at this point every hero has some sort of Nazi doppelganger, at least in DC. I mean, they even did it in the Arrowverse during the Crisis on Earth X crossover. Oliver and Kara had to deal with evil Nazi doppelgangers from Earth X. Barry actually didn't have one, it was just Eobard Thawne, who was also just messing with him. But, back to my main point. Wonder Woman also has an evil Nazi doppelganger. This version comes from Earth 10 and is an Earth where Germany won World War II, just like Earth X in the Arrowverse. All of the Justice League members have evil versions of themselves, and one of those, of course, is Wonder Woman. It was really a different kind of thing for fans to see. And in this version, there's almost no one that can stop them. Imagine going up against an evil version of the League. It's just a terrifying thought. Number 3, Flashpoint Wonder Woman. When Barry Allen went back in time to save his mom, he created an alternate timeline. It was during the comic event Flashpoint. In this new timeline, Wonder Woman and Aquaman, meet up to fight a common enemy. But they also happen to fall in love. It always happens. The only problem is, Aquaman is taken. with Mira. So, but you know, that doesn't sit well with old Diana. She's like, no, let me take care of this problem. So she kills Mira. But it doesn't sit well with Arthur. And then after that, Themyscira and Atlantis, they decide to go to war. This war basically ravages the entire world. Wonder Woman just kills a ton of people and gets to the point where you wouldn't even really recognize her anymore. It's a great story though. I mean, Flashpoint has become one of the most beloved DC stories around. Fans love that alternate timeline it created. It's been adapted into the animated movie, and it was even brought into The Flash Season 3. It's super popular. Number 2, Blackest Night Wonder Woman. Blackest Night was not only a big deal for Green Lantern fans, but just DC fans in general. It was one of the most epic events in DC's history. The long-forgotten Black Lanterns returned, and in order to become Black Lantern, you have to be dead, which Wonder Woman was. As a Black Lantern, Wonder Woman is basically unstoppable. I mean, they are so powerful. At one point, Mara stabs Diana through the chest with a trident. A freaking trident. And that doesn't stop her. She does eventually come back to the land of the living, but fans really like seeing this kind of different, quite frankly, super scary version of Wonder Woman. If only for a little while. Number 1, Injustice Wonder Woman. You know, I feel like a lot of people probably saw this one coming. I mean, the Injustice universe just keeps getting more and more popular. It was created in 2013 with NetherRealm Studios' fighting game Injustice: Gods Among Us, which is an awesome game. It's set in a world where Superman is basically tricked by the Joker into killing Lois and their unborn child. This, of course, makes him go crazy, I mean, as it would with anyone. That would just mess anyone up. And he ends up starting an evil regime. Some heroes in the DC world end up joining him, and some obviously stand against him. Wonder Woman is actually on his side in this version. This version of Wonder Woman is brutal. She just straight up kills anyone in her path. We're not given a lot of her backstory, but they are always expanding this world. There have been multiple ongoing comics set in this world, and of course we ended up getting Injustice 2. Fingers crossed we end up getting Injustice 3 sometime within the next couple of years, but there are rumors going around that NetherRealm is working on something outside of Mortal Kombat and Injustice. So at this point, it seems like it's going to be a very long wait until we see Injustice 3, which really sucks. Fans love that franchise, and we need a third installment. We need to end that trilogy. Come on, guys, give us that game, NetherRealm.
Kicking off the list at number 10, she killed Maxwell Lord. Okay, it's one thing to kill an enemy, but to do it in front of thousands of people? I mean, do you have to? Wonder Woman issue 219 showed us a side to Wonder Woman that unfortunately had to come out. This issue was awesome. She handled Lord Maxwell, and she wasn't playing around. Now at the time, Superman was a little off, and by off I mean under control by Maxwell himself. So he was a threat, and the two of them going at it was already intense enough. Something you don't want to see. Like Diana is pulling out some boss moves. At one point she says that every single strength can be turned into a weakness. And when he stops speaking, that's when I know he's using his ears. God forgive me, followed by a mighty huh, and just rocks his eardrums. Then she tries to shake Maxwell down using the lasso of truth, demanding to set Superman free from his grasp. He says, "Kill me," and she responds not with words, but with actions instead. And even Superman's like, whew. And before we head over to number 9, guys, we have a huge announcement. We have another channel coming back after 3 years of running the show here. Landon himself is coming back with Landon Productions, and his first video is set to premiere December 7th. It's coming up, so go turn on your notifications on that channel as well, because you don't want to miss it. I've seen and heard what he's working on, and it sounds like a great time. Is the Canada Goose gonna take it on?
I'm on top like I'm goddamn Mario, right? I'm just
Not today! Maybe tomorrow!
Okay, is this real life right now?
Number 9, super intimate. Guys, superheroes have emotions just like us, okay? They meet other supers, they fall in love, they have super babies, they have lives too, it's fair. Sometimes key intimate moments are hard to conceal when you have the power of a god. So after the triumph that is The Dark Knight Returns, Frank Miller decided to dive into a scene that we could have all gone without, involving her and Superman. So her and Superman get it on. In a fancy super hotel, maybe the Fortress of Solitude? No, God no. They get it on in the sky, you know, causing massive tidal waves, volcanoes are shooting off, they even moved the earth a bit. Man, even people are evacuating islands. Like, this is a bad day for everybody but Wonder Woman, of course. Next time you guys want to get it on for a 5-panel straight, I don't know, maybe Egypt. someplace with a lot of sand and openness. Don't be blasting rocks at innocents. It's not nice. Number 8, Wonder Woman causing volcanoes to explode. I mean, that's pretty epic, but what about that time she made Captain Atom explode? If you drop a can of soda on the ground, it's ready to blow. You don't want to touch it. The last thing you want to do is puncture that can, or else you're gonna be sticky. Then you're covered in bees. No one wants bees. In the Injustice storyline, we find Wonder Woman making a not so smart choice when it comes to handling Captain Atom. So he's about to rock Superman, right? And then Wonder Woman comes in and cuts his throat open with her sword. "Oh, you stupid," he says to Diana. "I have more power in me than 10 nuclear bombs, and you and your stupid magic sword have just breached the thing that contains it." But then he decides, this is my last opportunity anyway, screw it. Grabs Superman and then takes Superman out to get an up close and personal look at the light show. Nice. Number 7, Darkseid's powers. Sometimes you have a choice, and sometimes that choice is a lose-lose. These happen a lot in comic book movies, like Doctor Strange giving away the Time Stone to Thanos and then powering him up. It's a bad move, but it's better than the alternative still, because he saw the future, he knows. So in Wonder Woman's case, he was less of a problem this time around. So when Brainiac took control of Warworld in the Our Worlds at War storyline, specifically Wonder Woman issue 173, Wonder Woman gives away part of her soul in order to restore Darkseid's powers. Why the hell would she do that? To fight off the alien Imperiex? Yeah? Okay, I guess that's fine, that's fair. That's more than fair. I mean, after his powers are restored, they're able to stop Brainiac 13 and Imperiex. But you can't be juicing that guy up. I mean, of all people, not him. Number 6, ahead of the game. So one of the changes to reality that occurs during the Flashpoint event is when Wonder Woman and Aquaman get married. It's great. I mean, well, not really. Weddings are just fun, I guess, I don't know. I hear the song Shout and then I black out. It's so weird. This is the reality now where Bruce Wayne was killed and not his parents. So Superman is in a government lab having a not so relaxing time, and then we see Diana being saved by a sea monster from Aquaman. Ah, how lovely. A nice thing. Ah, yes. Classic Wonder Woman. Nothing like getting cheated on and then having your head cut off, adding injury to insult in this case. She then pops her crown off her severed head and then places it nicely on her own. And of course, a war follows between the Atlanteans and the Amazons, but comes to a lovely conclusion when Wonder Woman kills Aquaman by stabbing him in the back. Literally.
Number 5, Frank Miller's Wonder Woman. Hopefully we all know who Frank Miller is, you know, the writer of The Dark Knight Returns and Daredevil Born Again. Well, Miller also took a crack at the character that is Wonder Woman in his Batman series The Dark Knight Strikes Back. In this series, heroes like Superman, Wonder Woman, and Captain Marvel have been forced to work for the government, since their loved ones are being held hostage and are under threat. Superman is even ordered by the president, who turns out to be a computer-generated front for Lex Luthor and Brainiac, to stop Batman. It eventually gets to the point in the story where Superman, Wonder Woman, and their daughter Lara joins forces with Batman once again because they deem his plan to be the only way to get out of this whole mess. Now I'll be honest, this Wonder Woman isn't on this list today because of how dark the story is. It's mostly because this is considered to be one of the worst incarnations of Wonder Woman to date. Now she's definitely the warrior you expect from Wonder Woman, but her cold and quite frankly sexist portrayal in the comics was nothing short of distasteful. It also doesn't help that her humanity was put in question throughout the entirety of the graphic novel. If you feel like you can stomach it, check out this Wonder Woman and this whole series starting with 2002's The Dark Knight Strikes Again, number 1. Number 4, Wonder Woman God of War. Following 2011's Flashpoint event, DC rebooted the entirety of its continuity into the New 52. In the new Wonder Woman, the story of Hippolyta creating Diana from clay is revealed to actually be a lie, and Diana is actually a child of Zeus, and the whole clay bit was a cover story intended to keep Zeus's jealous wife Hera from killing her. Sometime later during her training, Diana became the secret protege of Ares, the god of war, only to have him drop her when she refused to kill for him. Years later, after Diana learned her true origin, she found herself embroiled in the power struggles of her Olympian kin. In the course of one adventure, she had to kill Ares, which made her the new god of war, and although she fought against the role for a while, as the battle against the monstrous firstborn of Zeus heated up, she stepped right into the job. Honestly, who knows what Wonder Woman creator William Marston would have made of this, given that he wrote her as this force of peace and this nemesis of the god of war. He might be happier with the events in DC Rebirth, which implies that the whole, Diana's New 52 adventures didn't actually happen. Number 3, Superwoman. I feel like we all knew this alternate Wonder Woman was going to end up on this list today. Hailing from Earth 3, the Earth that is said to be the birthplace of evil, Superwoman is a renegade Amazon who is also taking on the identity of Lois Lane, depending on the version that we're talking about here. Depending on her origin, she is either from Paradise Island or its antimatter equivalent known as Damnation Island. While there are many versions of her out there, one thing that they all have in common is her sadistic personality and the love triangle she has with her colleagues. Equipped with a lasso of submission, a barbed and much scarier looking version of the lasso of truth that forces the captor to not only comply with the user, but also fall in love with them, which she has used a few times to her advantage, if you know what I mean. As a member of the crime syndicate, she helped imprison most of the members of the various Justice Leagues in the Firestorm Matrix and began a reign of terror over the world, eliminating any resistance in their way. Give her story a read for yourself, starting with 1964's Justice League of America number 29, or skip ahead to 2013's Justice League Volume 2, number 23. Number 2, Injustice Wonder Woman. Easily one of the most dark and evil versions of Wonder Woman out there. Not only did she see Superman's descent into evil before it ever happened, but she also actively encouraged it, practically manipulating the Man of Steel when he was at his worst for her own personal gain. Not only that, but by the events of the original Injustice video game, she had been ruling Paradise Island with an iron fist and showed absolutely no remorse. She served as Superman's right hand and took the place of Lois Lane as his new love interest. However, he clearly showed no love towards her because he was still mourning the loss of his dead wife, who he killed himself. When she is confronted by her mainstream counterpart, the mainstream Wonder Woman reprimands her for blindly following a man who does not feel as much devotion to her as she does to him. And once Wonder Woman is defeated, she is taken by her fellow Amazons to be imprisoned for her role in the regime and is later seen on Kahndaq during the events of Injustice 2 as she has been exiled. Take a look at her story for yourself, starting with 2013's Injustice Gods Among Us number 1, or honestly just feel free to replay the games. And finally, number 1, Flashpoint Wonder Woman. When the Flash accidentally created Flashpoint as a result of attempting to save his mother, the ripple effects changed the timeline to the worst it's ever been. You know, Batman is Thomas Wayne, Superman is in a government facility, and Wonder Woman is the monarch of the Amazons and currently at war with Atlantis, all because she killed Aquaman's wife, who knew Wonder Woman was having an affair with her husband. With all of the normal powers and accessories that make Wonder Woman a formidable foe, this iteration of Wonder Woman seems to lack the empathy that prevents Diana from absolutely losing it and killing everyone. As the war went on, Aquaman and Wonder Woman forged an alliance to take down a mutual enemy, Batman. As both monarchs send their troops to Batman's lair, the world is erased, killing every single inhabitant. Absolutely cruel and bloodthirsty, this Wonder Woman has something that she shares with her Injustice counterpart: her lack of love, and above all, her sickening lack of humanity. Now, I love the Flashpoint timeline with all of my heart, so why not check it and her out for yourself, starting with 2011's Flashpoint Volume 2, number 1.
Kicking off the list at number 10, Superman. We'll kick off the list with some mind-controlled madness here, we always love those. In part 1 of the Superman Sacrifice storyline, Maxwell Lord had Superman thinking he was fighting Doomsday, but in reality he was fighting his own friend, Diana Prince. Now, Superman does seem to do most of the damage here, but only because Diana was strategically using her lasso against him in hopes to cancel out the mind control. She had her wrist broken during this altercation, but eventually she realized the only way to stop Superman was to take out Maxwell Lord instead. But if she had not taken down Maxwell, she for sure would have won against mind-controlled, dare I say, messy Superman. She slashed his throat at one point and was still holding back. What a ride. Number 9, Green Lantern. Hal Jordan is one of the most powerful members of the Justice League. His ring allows him to get a lot done, but how does it hold up against the might of Wonder Woman? In the New 52, the team aren't exactly close yet. They have their arguments, you know, it's realistic. They don't know each other too well, so it makes sense. But in Justice League issue 11, Wonder Woman sets out to take on David Graves. Steve Trevor is there and Diana plans on taking off Graves' head. So Green Lantern steps in with other ideas. He insists that this is a job for the League and not just for her, so she should back down, or at least include them. She says no to both options. So Green Lantern uses his ring to hold her back, and after Diana demands to be let out, he responds with no. So she breaks out of the ring's construct and throws Green Lantern around for a few pages. She actually tries to use her sword on him at one point, believe it or not, but luckily Superman grabbed it mid-swing. That was a close call, Diana, a little too close for comfort. And before we continue with this list, if you want to go ahead and give us a thumbs up, that would be awesome. It really does help us out here on our channel, and then in turn we can bring you all the nerdy goodness and put it back into your eyes. Thank you so much for your support. Now let's get right back to this list. Number 8, Power Girl. In Wonder Woman issue 41, A Murder of Crows Part 2, we see Power Girl and Wonder Woman go toe to toe. This nightmare becomes reality when the son of Ares, the Crows, turns superheroes against Wonder Woman, including Power Girl. At the start of the comic, Wonder Woman even acknowledges that this isn't going the way she thought it was. She's getting quite a few hits from Power Girl. Now, it's fun to watch. I mean, Power Girl literally punches Diana so hard that she ends up in Canada, which is amazing. Karens are tough. She's probably the toughest Karen out there, I would say so. But Wonder Woman quickly reminds herself that she too has super speed. She's good, but she's no Amazon.
Number 7. Cheaters never prosper. This was like a whole thing where I feel like everyone was kind of embarrassed. Like pretty much everyone involved I feel like was embarrassed in this one. I know I was embarrassed watching this happen. Oof. We are talking about when in the DCEU in Wonder Woman 1984, Diana competes in an Amazonian triathlon against the other Amazons, despite being very much their junior. The princess is hopeful that she can win the competition despite her lack of experience and her youth in comparison to her sisters. However, when she loses her horse, she has to get resourceful in order to catch back up and ends up taking a shortcut to do so. However, apparently it turns out that this is cheating, and so her perceived victory is considered null and void by her mother, the hero, Queen Hippolyta, who also seems pretty disappointed, but still hopeful when it comes to her daughter's attempt. She's like, look, you can't cheat, but maybe next time, maybe you get him next time. Don't take shortcuts. I was like embarrassed because I was like, really? That was cheating? Oh, okay. I would have done that too. I'm with you, Diana.
Number 6. Batman. On screen we saw Batman and Superman go at it. It was a good time, but we have yet to see Batman fight Wonder Woman, and that's probably for the best. In Wonder Woman the Hikatia, released in 2002, during this storyline Batman gets on Diana's radar after somebody Wonder Woman was in charge of protecting turns out to be a criminal in Gotham City, so Batman has a few choice words to say. That's his city and he handles the crime around those parts. Diana disagrees, so now we get a heated exchange. Lucky for us, it's pretty epic. Batman throws a batarang and Diana catches it. It's always an entertaining dynamic when two superheroes have different plans. Now the only way for Diana to stop beating down Bruce was for Batman to tell her that she straight up won. He surrenders, which is insane. The cover of the story is actually pretty spoilery. It shows Wonder Woman's foot on Batman's head, which we don't see play out until page 93. But it's still worth the read nonetheless. Check it out.
Number 5. Aurora of Themyscira. Comics seem to continuously supply us with things we never thought we needed. In a moment not likely to happen again in the near future, the House of DC and the House of Marvel were friends. They could talk, they could play nice, and to prove that, one of the most beloved moments came in the mid-1990s when these two companies joined forces for a crossover. This took place in the amalgamated world of Earth 9602. On this Earth, it was not Diana Prince who became Wonder Woman. Instead, a meta-mutant child by the name of Aurora was rescued and raised as a princess of the Amazons by Queen Hippolyta, alongside Diana Prince. The two fought alongside each other as they grew up, but when the time came to choose who would be Wonder Woman, Aurora's natural ability to control and harness the forces of the weather, plus her Amazonian training, allowed her to secure the victory. She went off to become one hell of a hero when she finally left the island to enter man's world. It's such an interesting and surprising mashup of characters, but when you properly think about it, it really does make a whole lot of sense that Storm and Wonder Woman could be the same person.
Number 4. Captain Atom. In Injustice Gods Among Us issue 2, Captain Atom is keeping Superman busy. He's holding the god down by using his nuclear energy, and he's actually doing a pretty decent job here, I'm not gonna lie. The Pentagon thinks that Nathaniel can take Superman on, but he's never tried to before until now, because he knows, he follows orders, unlike some other gods. It's a heated exchange, but it comes to an explosive halt once Diana enters the scene. Right before Captain Atom is about to punch Superman's head right off, Wonder Woman uses her sword to slash at his throat. He's standing there afterwards, but everybody knows what's about to happen. He has more power in him than 10 nuclear bombs, and her magic sword just breached the one thing that contains it. So he decides to take Superman with him as he flies off and explodes in space.
Number 3. Poking eyes and breaking arms. In Injustice Gods Among Us Year 4, there is a brutal showdown between Superman and Wonder Woman that is basically orchestrated by Batman. The two face off in a trial by combat style fight in order to settle a dispute, with Wonder Woman being forced to fight as she was nominated by Batman, even though she and Supes are kinda still technically on the same side here. However, this just means that in the end, Diana is able to use Clark's hesitancy to her advantage. She not only defeats Clark, but she does so brutally. At first it seems as though he'll come out victorious, but the fight ends with Diana clearly on top, attempting to gouge out his eyes before succeeding in breaking his arm. Youch. It's not easy to break a Kryptonian's arm, by the way. That is a lot.
Number 2, the Justice League. Perhaps one of the best victories here has to be the time Diana blindfolded herself in order to take on Medusa. Yeah, you heard me. Shut your eyes for this one, folks. This one goes down in Wonder Woman Eyes of the Gorgon, beginning in Wonder Woman Volume 2, Issue 206. Diana is challenged to take on Snakehead Sally over here, so at first she blindfolds herself, obviously, but when the blindfold comes off, she needs a new plan, so she improvises and uses one of the snakes from her head that had been severed off, and she uses its venom to blind herself. That's one way of not looking. She takes down Medusa blind. It's actually really impressive, but it only gets better. A couple of issues later, Diana, still blind, begins training with the Justice League. They need to know she's still a formidable member, so like the final scene of Dodgeball, she wraps up her eyes, and so it begins. Plastic Man, The Flash, Black Canary, Martian Manhunter, even Batman comes in at one point, all racing towards her, and she takes them all on. Superman even fires a gun at her, like okay, but she deflects it, no sweat, still blind. How impressive is that? And finally, coming in at number 1, the Justice League again. Another one, here you go. Yeah, it's pretty common for superheroes to think about taking down their own teammates. Batman did it in Tower of Babel. He had all these plans just in case anybody on the team went a little psycho. And then in JLA, A League of One, Diana has to face a similar situation. The story begins with a flashback to 1348, where the evil dragon, Dracul Carfang, has started wiping out villages. Now the only way to destroy said dragon is of course to get to its heart. How soft and lovely. Soldiers reach the dragon's lair, fail at killing it obviously, so then they just blow the entrance apart and seal it in forever until, you guessed it, today, present day. So the rules with how to defeat this dragon are complicated because it can only be taken down by members of the Justice League, but in turn it would take them out in the process. So Diana figures out this wild loophole and takes the team down herself in order to protect them. Yeah, hear me out. She traps Martian Manhunter in a volcano, she throws Aquaman to the fishes, hilariously, he gets eaten by a sea monster, and then she beats up Batman and the Flash. She also steals Green Lantern's ring, which is just rude. She handles Superman as well by sending him away on a fake mission in space, so he's just away, not even involved. And then she handles the dragon with her lasso, almost dying in the process, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Even if that includes throwing your coworker into a sea monster's trout. What can I say? That's teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work.